This is Ron Carter. As we continue our search for the hidden arts and cultural treasures throughout Butler County, Pennsylvania, we find that, just like the county itself, some of those treasures are right in our own backyard. Others are in much more remote, rural locations. So let's pack up and get moving on the next episode of Showreel. As you follow the tree-lined streets of McCain Street, which runs parallel to Main Street in Butler, you will find a fascinating museum dedicated to Asian arts and culture, as well as German Meissen porcelain. Welcome to the Meridon Museum. I am with Roxanne Boozer, the Executive Director here at the Meridon Museum in Butler. Roxanne, this is such a beautiful museum, and I can't believe it's right here in downtown Butler. So how did all this come together?
Our founder was Mary Holton Phillips, and she grew up and lived here in Butler. And she amassed this collection over about a 40-year period. And as she got older, she was known to have a great sense of humor, and she used to say that you never see a U-Haul following a hearse. So she decided she needed to do something. She and her husband never had any children. So she started talking about putting together a museum. And indeed, in 2001, out of her home, the museum became incorporated, and they started remodeling this space here. This used to be a light store and a car dealership.
Oh, really?
Yes. And so they ended up modifying everything for the needs of the museum. And they went through what was museum quality and what wasn't. And we have what you have here today.
Fantastic. And so the museum opened at what time?
May of 2004.
May of 2004. Yes. So about 13 years it's been in operation.
Yes.
Now, are you still finding that people don't even realize that it's here?
Yes, unfortunately, we still get that. And when people do come in, they're amazed that it's here. Why is this in Butler? This is such a beautiful museum. It should be in Pittsburgh or Cleveland or Chicago or even New York. We hear comments like that all of the time. But Mary was a big philanthropist in the area. She gave to many nonprofit organizations. And it was important to her that it be here.
And honestly, this is unique. The museum itself, not only the fact you have all this Oriental art and culture, but there's also the German, which is what is
Meissen porcelain.
The Meissen porcelain.
Yes.
There's really nothing like this, not in Pittsburgh or anywhere else.
Not coupled together like this, no.
Very interesting. Yes. So we're going to take a look around and look at some of these pieces, but one of the first things you see as you walk in the door is this gorgeous statue. What can you tell me about this? It looks fantastic.
Sure. This is Guanyin. She is the goddess of mercy, and the Chinese would pray to her to have a son and to marry well. And I liken her into like the Catholic religion, where people might ask Mary for a favor. You know, if God shuts the door, Mary opens the window.
Okay.
That's kind of Guanyin's role in my view. And here you can also see the tusks of the phoenix bird with the peonies on her side, which is the Chinese flower.
Okay. And what is this carved from?
Ivory. And
wow, this is all ivory.
Yes, it is. Many, many pieces held together with pins.
With pins?
Yes, metal pins.
That's amazing.
It is. It's very beautiful.
So we're going to actually talk with some of your docents and see other particular pieces in the museum, and then we'll come back and wrap things up.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Wonderful. I'm with Cindy Sweeney, who's the Vice President of the Board here at the Meridon Museum. And Cindy, I understand you're going to show us some of the first pieces of artwork that you see as you come into the museum, and there's a reason for that.
Absolutely. The first two pieces are our rose quartz voodoo dogs, which you can see, and they're placed here because they're guarding the museum from all the negativity, And they're a pair, the yin and the yang, so to speak, so you have harmony and completeness.
Fantastic.
So they always go together, and of course we'll start with the yang.
All right.
And I want you to look at him carefully. His mouth is open, as is hers, and that's to take the negativity out. They actually breathe it in so it can't enter the museum. And if you look at the eyes, the teeth, the claws, they are going to guard anything from hurting this beautiful museum. And this is our female one. She is the yin. And you can see her paw is on the little puppy. She's the nurturer.
Okay.
She really nurtures the inside of the home. She keeps any negativity for growing. If you have children, you might know that they would get into little tips.
Yeah.
She will stop that. She will stop anyone from crushing her children's dreams. She is compassion and support. So together, the yin and the yang, they have emotional balance in the home.
And the carving is so intricate.
Yes, these are from the early 20th century. Now, can you imagine an artist getting a huge block of quartz? And they've been mined all over the world. As a matter of fact, as far back as 7000 BC, you would have found them in Mesopotamia, in Egyptian artifacts, Roman artifacts. But could you imagine finding a block of this and envisioning to carve something that's, 16 by 18 inches?
It is truly amazing.
It's a fabulous, fabulous.
This is Millie Pinkerton. She's a docent here at the museum. And Millie, this is a very interesting piece. What can you tell me about it?
Well, this piece is called Budai. A Budai was a real person, and he lived in China in the 7th or 8th century. He was a Zen Buddhist master, and he was a very happy person. And every Budai I've ever seen has a smile on his face. He has always prayer beads. And this particular one has children, and this little bag here is a bag of wind.
A bag of wind.
A bag of wind, because Budai was a teller of great stories.
Oh, wow, okay.
So he was such a happy person that everyone wanted to be around him, and when he died, they actually started praying to him as a god for good luck and for happiness.
Fantastic.
So Mary had this piece in her home, and actually it was one of the pieces my husband would have really loved to have had, because my husband loves smiling, and he's always got that smile on his face.
Sure.
So Budai, at Christmas time in Mary's home, always had a big Santa hat. All the kids had hats too, so now at Christmas time, and very soon, probably right after Thanksgiving, they're all going to be donning their Santa hats. And when the kids come for tours, we do a lot of tours for schools. They love Budai, and they really love Budai because it's the only piece in the museum that they're allowed to touch.
Oh, wow, fantastic.
They're allowed to rub his belly.
And why that? And why is that?
Because then they'll have good fortune for the rest of their lives.
All right. Well, then I'm
So
going to
there
have a
you
little
go.
pat right there.
Okay.
Well done. I feel better already.
This is an amazing display. Everything here is so real. It came down from hundreds of years. Now the whole museum is features so many beautiful things, and all of them came to being because of the scholar artist.
Scholar artist. Okay.
Or the artist scholar,
Okay.
whichever you want to say. But at any rate, this is where he sits. He sits in a chair that has a back that comes in, does not allow for relaxed artistry. That's so he can be so proud of his scholar's hump, which is caused by not being able,
Not being able to
do
bend over.
anything except bend over and do your work.
Fantastic.
Yes, and he has his scroll in front of him. He has all these beautiful jade pieces, porcelain pieces. Everything is, well, it's semi-precious
Okay.
and precious.
But it's all significant. Everything has a purpose. And even the things that are here that are tools are also pieces of artwork. Is that right?
Absolutely. You have got that right. There is his ink. That's from the 1700s. I don't know how they got it, but it's certifiably from the 1700s. The jade, spinach jade there, dark green, beautiful carved, that is from the 1700s, and it has brushes with jade handles.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, and
incredible.
ivory handles, as you can see. And there's the horsehair.
Wow.
There's a horsehair, kind of a tail-like.
Sure.
that's for the flies. So whisk away the flies so that you don't have to be bothered in the hot summers in China.
Okay.
And there also is a windscreen up there
All right.
that has a dragon look to it.
Yes, it certainly does.
That's nature. That is something from nature that they found that has all the trappings of looking like a fierce dragon, and that is set to the north of
And why
the
is that?
scholar artist because, well, you wouldn't want the vapors from Mongolia to the north coming down and disturbing your motivations and your inspirations.
Of course, you would not want those vapors to come in from out of Mongolia. Fantastic.
No.
So really, what's important about this particular display is that everything throughout the rest of the museum has kind of sprung from these artist scholars.
Actually, that's the only reason we have anything to show you in this museum is because of the work of the artist scholar.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Now we're in a very different part of the museum. Everything else has been very, Asian with the culture and the design and all the artwork, and this is far from that.
Yes.
So what can you tell me about it?
Well, this is how we really tie in East meeting West. And back in the day, the Europeans really desired the porcelain that was coming out of China.
Okay.
And so to the point where Augustus the Strong imprisoned an alchemist until he could emulate the formula for porcelain. And then we started creating what you have here, the Meissen porcelain.
Oh, okay. Meissen porcelain. All right.
Yes. And these are a few of my favorite pieces, and they are called the satire pieces in the museum. So if you wanted to focus on this piece right here, this is a man and woman, and the man realizes there's another man, the lover of his wife, hiding under the bed.
Oh my.
The little dog has kind of ratted him out. And on this piece right here, you have an elderly woman with a young lover, and this is her wealth here, and you have Cupid there with the will getting out because he's trying to take her money. And yeah.
So human behavior really hasn't changed at all in the last several hundred years.
It hasn't at all. So, and the last piece of the satire that I really love is you have a card game going on here with a father and a husband and wife, and you see an attorney come in and a woman with a baby claiming that that is his child. Of course, the wife is mortified and the father is laughing.
Oh my goodness.
So yes, these are some fun pieces here.
So even back in these days, not only did we have terrible habits and behave terribly back in those days, we even had people making artwork about it.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that is truly amazing.
Yes.
Wonderful. And so the rest of these pieces, though, are really sprung from the Asian
Yes.
Influence.
Yes.
And just grew into the German and European styles from porcelain.
Correct.
Wonderful.
Yes. All these beautiful colors were added.
Fantastic. Roxanne, this has been a fascinating tour. I mean, these pieces are absolutely beautiful, but also your docents, just wonderful. Are they volunteers?
Yes, they're volunteers, and they were many of them were personal friends of Mary's.
Well, it's clear they had a true passion for what they were talking about, and they just really enjoyed showing the history and talking about these pieces, and we just loved having them here on the show. But if I want to encourage more people to visit here, how would I find out more about the Meridon Museum?
Sure. You can go to our website, which is www.meridon.org. We're on Facebook, and we're also on Instagram. And we welcome a lot of visitors here, and our hours are Wednesday through Saturdays, 11 to 4. And if you wanted a docent-guided tour, just give us a call, and we'll try and schedule that for you.
So you can actually do it by appointment?
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, this is an absolutely wonderful place. Come back and visit us here at the Meridon Museum in Butler. As you make your way through Slippery Rock and head north on Route 8 for about 10 minutes into Harrisville, Pennsylvania, you will find a positively gorgeous campus, which is the home of Blackwood Estate and Blackwood Arts. And it's also where you can find a very unique experience surrounding a vintage pipe organ. This is Dave Wickerham, a concertizing theater organist. Is that correct?
That is correct.
welcome to Show Reel. We're happy to have you here.
It's great to be here.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. Well, where are you from, and how did you actually get into theater organ music?
I grew up on the West Coast, actually in the LA area, and when I first started, my folks had bought just a little chord organ for the family as a Christmas gift, and my brother and I would share Disney records, and you know, I started picking out tunes on this little chord organ. This was before Casio keyboards.
And how old were you?
I was just about 4.
Wow.
Christmas before I was 4, so yeah, a couple months prior. So 3 and some change. And within a short period of time, my folks realized we had a music teacher neighbor who was down the street. She says, you know, he's got a really great ear, and so they got a little spin it. And they found a teacher that knew how to take ear students, which is a little different way of training.
Sure.
And I'm really glad they did, because it's paid off. And as far as even now improvising and doing what like today's feature is a silent film, and it's very important. So yeah, and I majored later on. I mean, we had several different teachers along the way, and it was a music major and an electrical engineering minor at the University of Arizona in Tucson. And that's classical.
Okay.
What I do for a living is theater organ. And theater organ goes back to the days of the silent films. After the talking films came in, and probably in the event of like the hi-fi era in the 1950s, theater organs experienced a sort of a renaissance.
Really?
There was a very famous organist named George Wright who found a niche with hi-fi labels, and they found that demonstrating hi-fi equipment, a theater organ was a really great thing. It's very dynamic, it goes very soft, it goes very loud, low frequencies, high frequencies. If your sound system hi-fi could do a theater organ, you had something.
Wow,
and,
okay, interesting.
So that was the rebirth, and then from there, believe it or not, there were places that were restaurants, not unlike Shakey's Pizza, except they put pipe organs with all the percussions around the room. So it was, one is still in business in Mesa, and it's called the Organ Stop. I worked for them for about 7 years. Milwaukee. So I did 32 years of playing in pizza parlors, and that was my full-time career.
That is truly amazing. So you've been here off and on for about 10 years, so you've got some experience with their instrument here, of course. So how does the theater organ that's here compare to some of the other instruments that you've played throughout the country?
Well, when I first came here in 2007, I was very impressed for a lot of reasons. There's just not too many instruments around, particularly in a setting like this, which has the engineering behind it to have the floor actually move open, you know, where there's a door that allows the original lift concept to bring the organ up. That was very cool. The sound of the instrument I've always been really fond of. It's essentially and over the years, as I've been coming here, there's been work done, what's called tonal regulation, voicing the organ, and it's getting to the point where it's right about at perfect. It's really amazing, and it's a joy to play. I will sit down and it sort of plays me, you know, once you get into it.
Fantastic.
I would say it's, you know, if I have to rate, you know, it's in the top 10, possibly top 5 in terms of faves. I really like it.
Well, we are very excited to hear you play this instrument for this special event, which is going to be happening in just a few minutes. with Jason Wiles, the Vice President of Blackwood Arts. Jason, what can you tell me happens down here?
Oh gosh, well, in the dungeon, if you will, we basically, it is the control center for the pipe organ. And this is actually something that's grown over quite a few years. It started out, this organ actually began its life as a studio instrument. We don't really know whether it was a radio station studio or a private music studio, but then it made its way into a pizza and Pipes restaurant in Minnesota, of all.
In other news, there's a Pizza and Pipes restaurant in Minnesota.
Well, there was. We have the organ now. Actually, it's in the 60s and 70s, it was a popular kind of thing in some larger cities. Pittsburgh never had one, and obviously Butler never had one. But anyway, this instrument had, if you will, a revival at that point as an instrument in to accompany patrons eating at a restaurant.
Sure.
And
that's amazing. I'd never heard that before.
yeah. So in the mid '80s, Ben bought this instrument, had it hauled home from Minnesota, and it ended up here. This whole mechanism with the floor, that was all developed by Don Fink, and just with his creative genius, he was able to do that. So
absolutely incredible. It's amazing just to look at down here and everything that's going on. It looks like a miracle of modern engineering.
Well, it's something anyway.
Well, thank you so much. It looks fantastic.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I'm with Ben Robertson, one of the owners of Blackwood Estate, and I understand a founding member of Blackwood Arts. And Ben, thanks so much for joining us on Showreel.
Glad to be here.
Now, what can you tell me about all this? How did all this come to be? It's really an amazing campus.
Well, the original part of the property, the first 15 acres, was purchased around 1970, and then we started building structures on it, the main house, the barn, some of the other outbuildings. Then in 1995 or so, we bought another 20 acres adjacent, and so it's now about 40 acres. We actually built a house on the back, 25 acres, and subsequently sold it to Jason and his wife when they got married here in the music room. So.
Well, it's a beautiful campus. It's amazing what you've accomplished here. Maybe it's been a lot of years, but truly an amazing experience just going through. And we are looking forward to taking a look around and traveling and looking at this campus and seeing what the structures are and all the pieces of artwork that are here too. So we're going to get on the road in just a minute.
So the first structure that we built was a small 12 by 16 structure over here in order to get electricity on the property. And that was before power tools, so this was actually built with hand saws and shovel digging. We started increasing the number of buildings on the property. There's a building up there, which was the original barn, and that was also the first location of the pipe organ that we bought back in 1981.
And at what point did you start adding all these different attractions? At what point did you start adding these different features to the campus?
It's almost like every few years we get the urge to build something. And the structure that you're going to see now is what we call our clock tower. And one of the reasons why we built a clock tower was there was an auction in the North Hills, and there was a Seth Thomas tower clock which was put up at auction. And I went to the auction, and I ended up getting the winning bid on the Seth Thomas tower clock. So we can actually go in there if you'd like.
Oh, sure.
That is the 1907 Seth Thomas tower clock. This is actually functioning. It's connected by a series of wires or rods and gears, and it goes from there across the floor into the cupboard, up to the 4th floor, and then across to the back of the clock mechanism. So
amazing.
The reason why we don't have it working right now is it's a rental unit, and we don't want anybody putting things into the gear mechanism,
Of course.
because these are not replaceable. So,
I mean, all right.
but it's a functioning tower clock.
And where are we headed now?
Well, we're going to go to a yellow building over here,
Okay.
and there's a room which can seat about 60 people. Right now, it's since we're at the end of the season, sort of cleared out, but it also houses a Wurlitzer military band organ, style 125, and this is the one which has the brass trumpets exposed in the front. It was a typical fairground organ back in the early 1900s.
Okay.
So
No, I
there
have to
you
get on a
have it.
carousel. I have to get on a carousel right now. Now, Ben, what's the size of the campus here?
35 acres.
35 acres. And that was prior to that. It was just
It's all
abandoned farmland.
Abandoned farmland.
Abandoned farmland. Amazing.
And this everything on this property here was just full of the wild blackberries. And
Oh,
so
really?
we actually had to keep cutting them down. And this is where we've had a couple weddings where they actually will have their vows up here or whatever.
This is
This is part of the original house
Okay.
here. And the original house was 30 by 50. And then we put the addition, the music room, on perpendicular 30 by 50.
okay. And this is the music room from the outside right here.
No.
No.
Nope.
I can't keep track of any of this.
It's difficult. No, the music room is through the kitchen.
Okay.
Way on the
I
other
see
side.
now. Right.
But
Great.
this is where a lot of people, during intermission for our Make-A-Wish concerts, we have tents set up by the garage, which will eventually set up out here. And then a lot of the spillover comes into the patio here.
Great. Well, Ben, this has truly been an amazing experience. It's a beautiful music hall. It's a beautiful campus. So if there were a virtual way to find out about what's going on here at Blackwood, what would that virtual presence possibly be?
Go to our website, which is blackwoodarts.org. And on the website, you'll actually see some photographs of the grounds. And there's a small video that Dave Wickerham, we managed to capture this year, and it's on the website. It'll show the organ coming out of the floor and him playing a medley of 2 songs. And then there's also a contact spot on the website for anybody that wants to sign up for a newsletter, because we send out a newsletter every April. And we urge people to sign up for the events as soon as they can, because many of them sell out, and we only have seating for 100 here.
Sure. And so once again, that website address is?
It's blackwoodarts.org.
blackwoodarts.org. That is a perfect place to go and find out about all the incredible programs that are here. I certainly encourage you to come out and visit the campus. It is absolutely gorgeous, and it really is not a terribly long drive, maybe about from Cranberry Township, maybe about 45 minutes or so. Well worth the trip. It's the Blackwood Estate and the Blackwood Arts here in Butler County, Pennsylvania. It is a gorgeous facility. Please visit it. Thank you so much for joining us on Show Reel.
Thank you.
Well, I certainly worked up an appetite with that last trip out to Blackwood Estate. But like many arts and culture treasures throughout Butler County, Pennsylvania, it was completely worth it, and I certainly encourage you to go visit. Other times, those treasures are right in your own backyard, like the Meridon Museum in Butler. So we'll see you next time on Show Reel. If you would like to find out more about arts and culture in Butler County, PA, be sure to visit the online calendar on the website of the Butler County Tourism and Convention Bureau.